Welcome to Our Talk, and thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Kelly Hicks, and I am here today with Johnny Campbell. You are in for a treat. He is the transition man, and I am just pleased to have him today. Thanks a million for being here. Tell us more about what that means, being the transition man.
Well, a transition man, I came up with that idea before I became a speaker. Spent a little over 5 years in the insurance industry.
Okay.
And I was a part of 5 downsizings and mergers.
A part of 5?
5 downsizings and mergers. And during that time, my job was to help people cope with and move through those situations. Now, a lot of people, they really have a problem with the idea of change, what change is and how to cope with it. So I started thinking about, really, is it the change that's stumbling everyone, or is it the other part? The other part is the transitional piece. And so because I was going to start helping people move through it, I figured they needed a superhero to help them in their journey. So I became the transition man because everything I taught was about transitions, how to move through, how to cope with, and how to handle.
Wow, and I think that this is going to be a very therapeutic segment for me as well, because like you said, we're all afraid of change, and for most of us, there's at different points in our life change that's taking place, and so we're facing our fears all the time. How do you, being more specific, help people to when you present, help them to face those fears and to move forward in their transitions?
Well, the first thing I do is I help them identify really what we're trying to do, which is they're trying to achieve a change in their life. But they first have to realize that change is not exactly what they're having a problem with. Change is the end result of a successful transition. See, the first thing I do is I educate them and say, if we really look at change in a dictionary for a moment, it means to be replaced or altered in some kind of way. However, transition means a passage from one place to another, i.e. to change. So the transitional piece is what we're going to focus on. From that moment on, I've redirected their thought process from the idea of change to the idea of transition. See, if you say the word change out loud, people will say change. But then they say the word transition. And which one sounds better?
Transition.
Transition sounds better. It's a much more natural process. I even show people the logic and the history behind a transition. They started off in grade school and they built themselves up through grade school into high school and some on to college. They didn't suddenly jump, they went through a process. Their entire life has been built upon processes, not sudden jumps. So I talk about the transitional piece, how to move through it. And we start with the most core thing. Whenever someone wants to move, we have to look at their values and their beliefs. And that's where the process of transition starts. What do you value and what do you believe in? And if your belief is great enough, you will put a value on the thing that you want, and the process of transition will begin.
Well, how do people get stuck after they're comfortable with the fact that they're transitioning and not changing? What really gets them to the point where they just get stuck? What kinds of things happen?
Well, when we're in the midst of living life, life sometimes gets in the way. And things occur is what I've started to phrase, and I learned it from Rick Warren in Purpose Driven Life. We have hurts, habits, and hang-ups.
Okay.
Along this journey, when we're trying to move through things, we get hurt. And suddenly we are bound by something. And we as human beings have a wonderful way of developing a habit to protect ourselves from it. And that shields us from it. Like if someone says something offensive to us, from that point going forward, we will constantly protect ourselves from that comment. We'll shield ourselves. And then when we say, I have to get over this feeling, for example, if someone goes through a divorce, the divorce hurts them. So they develop a habit to protect them. The habit could be they now eat, or they now drink, or they've developed some other habit that shields the pain of that loss. And then when someone comes along and says it's time for you to move on, they get hung up into this cycle, and it goes over and over and over again.
And how do you break the cycle?
You break the cycle when you first identify, okay, I need to be a new person here. I need to renew myself. Values and beliefs again. People will move away from an old habit when they place value on something that's greater than that habit that they have. It amazes me when people talk about quitting smoking. And it says, and a lot of times the doctor will say, if a person is smoking, you need to quit, or you're going to suffer, you're going to die from cancer.
Right.
They in themselves will say, well, I still want to smoke. But the doctor comes back and says, You need to quit so that you can see your grandchildren grow up. And they suddenly quit just like that. It's because they put a value on it greater than the habit that they currently have.
Okay.
And when they have a greater belief, then they put more value on it, and then they'll do something about it. But I've also developed a little word that will help the listeners out there. It's called
good.
MOVE. The M is for motive. Okay. Anything in life that you want, you must have a motive. The O, you must be opportunistic about it. See the opportunity in every situation, bad or good. Especially when you're dealing with tough times, you must see the advantage in the adversity. You must see the blessing in the burden, and you must see the success inside of it. And that gets you charged up. Then the V is for value. You must value it. It must be precious to you, because that'll draw you closer to it. And then the E, you have to make it easy for yourself. A little bit every day, and you'll move past it.
Wow. Have you done any life coaching?
On a one-on-one basis, I've done some life coaching and done some business coaching as well. And it's really been a growing practice for me now. Initially, I've just been doing speaking and training and consulting. But now I've been doing a lot more what I call life strategies. So I'm really there as a direct coach with someone. Here's what we can do right now. So I call myself a life strategist.
Okay, I like that. I like that because the potential is definitely there. I mean, with all of your background and knowledge, life coaching is something that you could move right readily into. So tell us, what are some of the experiences you've had as the transition man? Who have you presented for, and do you travel outside of the local area?
Spoken all over the country. I've done programs for various large insurance companies. I've done programs for the Department of Justice and for the Department of Defense as well. I've done programs in the government sector for national insurance companies as well as large banks downtown Chicago. I've been as far out as Southern California and as far up north as Augusta, Maine. Wow. And I've done programs all over the country, and it's all been about how to deal with change and how to deal with difficult people.
Tell us more about dealing with difficult people.
Well,
what are some strategies that you can give us to help us? We all have difficult people we're dealing with.
Yeah, difficult people are everywhere.
Yes, they are.
And they're always out to get us, aren't they?
Oh, yeah.
So the programs I've been doing predominantly around the country are how to deal with difficult people. And the first lesson that I can tell everybody about difficult people is that people aren't difficult. They're just different. What they have is a different way of communicating their issues and their concerns. And difficult people, it comes down to this. That secret, once again, values and beliefs. When people share the same values and beliefs about a particular subject, they are not difficult. But if two people share different values and beliefs, if I put a value on it, but you don't believe in it, there's going to be difficulty. Oh, yeah. If I believe in it and you don't put a value on it, there's going to be a difficulty. And so conflict exists. But here's an even more ironic twist. You and I can share the same values and beliefs, but if we don't communicate it in the same way, there can be a disconnect. Have you ever heard people say, we're saying the same thing, but how come we can't reach an agreement?
Right.
It's because I'm communicating, maybe I communicate as a visual person, and you communicate as an auditory person. So a conflict exists once again.
Yeah.
So my responsibility as a consultant, as a speaker, is to go around and help people understand these variable differences and realign so that they can get the cooperation that they're looking for.